Hey, so good morning everyone. कैसे हैं आप सभी? आई होप यू गाइस आर डूइंग एब्सोल्युटली फाइन. वेलकम बैक टू द चैनल. और आज हम लोग स्टार्ट करने वाले हैं चैप्टर नंबर 1 ऑफ योर बुक 2, पॉलिटिक्स इन इंडिया सिंस इंडिपेंडेंस. और मैंने फर्स्ट चैप्टर आपका जो बुक नंबर 1 है कंटेम्प्रेरी वर्ल्ड पॉलिटिक्स, उसका द कोल्ड वॉर एरा, वो कंप्लीट कर दिया है. आप मेरे चैनल पे जाकर चेक कर सकते हैं उसको. और दिस इन दिस वीडियो आई विल बी स्टार्टिंग विद द बुक 2 और चैप्टर नंबर 1, that is the challenges of nation building. और इस चैप्टर को हम लोग फिर से जस्ट लाइक द प्रीवियस फॉर्मेट ऑफ माय वीडियोस तीन पार्ट्स में कंप्लीट करेंगे. पार्ट नंबर 1 है ये, और इसके बाद और 2 पार्ट्स में अपलोड करूंगा विद इन दिस वीक. सो स्टे ट्यून्ड एंड विदाउट वेस्टिंग एनी टाइम लेट्स गेट स्टार्टेड. सो चैलेंजेस ऑफ नेशन बिल्डिंग. व्हाट अब सबसे पहले जानते हैं कि इस चैप्टर में हमने को पढ़ने को क्या मिलेगा, क्योंकि दैट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. विदाउट अगर हम डायरेक्टली जंप कर लेंगे चैप्टर के ऊपर, सो इट विल बी लाइक विदाउट हैविंग एनी काइंड ऑफ फ्रेमवर्क or what this chapter actually constitutes. We are actually starting with this chapter, and that is something that we should not be doing. Whenever you read, make sure that you read the introduction of the chapter, because कई बार questions जो आते हैं वो कई बार introduction से भी आते हैं, चैप्टर के introductory part या फिर चैप्टर के first few pages से भी आते हैं. तो उधर इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है कि आप अपने जब आंसर्स लिखें, तो आंसर्स में जब चैप्टर के इंट्रोडक्शन का कुछ पार्ट डालेंगे तो डेफिनेटली दैट विल मेक अ ब्यूटीफुल आंसर इन होल. ठीक है, सो लेट्स सी. In first few years in the life of independent India were full of challenges. Some of the most pressing ones concerned national duty and territorial integrity of India. We begin the story of politics in India since independence by looking at how three of these challenges of nation building were successfully negotiated in the first decade of 1947. अब ये 3 मेजर चैलेंजेस क्या थे जो हमें ड्यूरिंग दी प्री फेज एंड दी earlier phase, pre-independent period or after we got independent, what challenges we faced during the first few initial years. Freedom came with partition. This is very important, आप underline कर लीजिएगा. Which resulted in very large scale violence and displacement, and challenged the very idea of secular India. The integration of princely states into union territory needed urgent resolution. Of course, 500s, around 563, 565, around 563 to 565 princely states there were in our country during the before the independence. So it was really a mammoth task to make sure कि ये जो सारी princely states हैं ये सारे इंडियन यूनियन जो इंडिपेंडेंस के बाद बनेगा उसका पार्ट बने. तो उसके लिए वी नीड अ प्रॉपर कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव स्ट्रेटेजी टू मेक श्योर negotiations takes place in a smooth manner and there is no discrepancies left after the Indian Union is created, to make sure that इंडिपेंडेंस के बाद कोई भी जो प्रिंसली स्टेट्स हैं वो जब इंडिया का पार्ट बन गई हैं तो वो कभी भी चाहकर भी इंडियन यूनियन से सेपरेट नहीं हो सकती और एक सेपरेशनिस्ट मूवमेंट के थ्रू एक नई नेशन की डिमांड नहीं कर सकती. The internal boundaries of the country needed to be drawn afresh to meet the aspirations of people who spoke different languages. Again, this is also very important. I am highlighting this point also. देखो, सिंपल सी बात है. ब्रिटिश इंडिया जो था, ब्रिटिश इंडिया में जितना भी काम और जितनी भी चीज़ें हुई वो सब ब्रिटिश के इंटरेस्ट को सर्व करने के लिए हुई थी. बीट रेलवेज, बीट एनी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चरल world work, or be it any development regarding establishment of industry, ensuring the excessive exports and less imports, to make sure that Indian market absorbs the British produced goods. तो ये सारी जो चीज़ें थी ये सारी की सारी ब्रिटिश इंडिया के इंटरेस्ट को, ब्रिटिश एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के इंटरेस्ट को सर्व करने के लिए ही कही गई थी. एंड the third point that highlights the internal boundaries. Now, previously, before independence, before 1947, the internal boundaries that were drawn, they were basically drawn to make sure that the British administration runs in a smooth manner. They were basically drawn to make sure that how well British administration can administer its boundaries. So to complement that, the internal boundaries were drawn. But the after the independence, the major challenge was to make sure that these internal boundaries are drawn in such a manner that these boundaries promote the integrity of India, the vivid culture of India, the proper secular character of India, that the nation, that everyone across the world appreciates. तो ये में एक बहुत मेजर चैलेंज था. तो अब सबसे पहला मेजर टास्क जो था, जैसा कि हमने पता हम जैसे कि हमने देखा, द फ्रीडम केम विद द पार्टीशन. सो व्हेन अ कंट्री लाइक इंडिया, व्हेन अ कंट्री लाइक ब्रिटिश इंडिया, which constituted three major nations altogether, the present day India, the Pakistan, and the Bangladesh, the erstwhile Bangladesh, which was previously the East Pakistan. तो अब ऐसे पीरियड में what was important to make sure that this challenges of freedom, challenges of partition, which caused a huge havoc in the entire nation, be it the Pakistan, be it the East Pakistan of that time, be it the West Pakistan, or be it the Indian, present day India. There was large scale migration. The riots broke out in many parts of the country, including West Bengal, and then later spread it to regions such as Bihar, and then riots broke out in regions such as Amritsar, which led to large scale death of migrants who were trying to cross the border during that time. At the same time, rapes, brutalities against women, abduction, forceful changing of religion, and everything that you can imagine कि भाई जो कुछ भी बद से बदतर हो सकता था, that took place during the time of independence and during the time of partition. तो अगेन इट वाज अ मेजर चैलेंज टू मेक श्योर कि जितने भी शरणार्थी और जितने भी वर्कर्स या फिर जितने भी हिंदूज या किसी भी धर्म के लोग, दोज हु आर कमिंग टू इंडिया, to make sure that they get access to basic facilities during the initial phase till the time government provides them the proper housing facility. Make sure that their basic demands of food, water, shelter is addressed. Make sure that we are talking about Indian perspective. So to make sure ke how India is able to makes its strategies, or how well Indian government, to be precise, creates a strategy or policy to make sure that basic demands of, be it related to social sphere, be it related to economic sphere, gets addressed in the initial phase of India's independence period. ठीक है. तो challenges of nation building or the challenges for the new nation. At the hour of midnight on 14th-15th August 1947, India attained independence. Very important. Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of Free India, addressed a special session of Constituent Assembly at that night. The famous Tryst with Destiny speech that you are familiar with. Now, what was the speech? It is very important what Jawaharlal Nehru addressed to the nation in the Constituent Assembly. What Jawaharlal Nehru addressed to the during the proceedings of the Constituent Assembly. It is very important. This was the moment Indians had been waiting for. You have read in the history textbooks that there were many voices in the national movement, but there were two goals almost everyone agreed upon. Now, what were these two goals? One, that after independence, we shall run our country through democratic government, and two, that the government will be run for the good of all, particularly the poor and socially disadvantaged groups. This is very important. What were the two major ideas, or what were the two major goals that everybody agreed upon? Now the country was independent. The time had come to realize the promise of freedom. This was not going to be easy. India was born in very difficult circumstances. Perhaps no other country by then was born in a situation more difficult than that of India in 1947. Freedom came with a partition of the country, very important, highlighted. The year of 1947 was an year of unprecedented violence and trauma of displacement. It was in this situation that independent India started its journey to achieve several objectives. Yet the turmoil that accompanied independence did not make our leaders lose the sight of multiple challenges that faced the new nation. चलो अब इसको जरा समझ लेते हैं. At the देखो, as we know since the from the first day, then after when you we know these things that on 15th August 1947 India attained its independence. The Jawaharlal Nehru addressed the nation at the midnight of the 15th August 1947. His famous speech, you might if possible then you might search this speech and must read it for once. The famous speech Triumph and Destiny, as we are familiar with. Now in the circumstance in which India was born, it was obviously difficult, but at the same time the leaders were very determined to make sure that the vision that we have seen of independent India, it doesn't get derailed. We must make sure that we create policies, we create India in such a way that the whatever we have imagined of India as a new and independent India, we must make sure that this vision gets a track, this vision gets a proper implementation through proper policies. Now, what was the vision or what was the objective that they decided that we'll be implementing these objectives after once we gain the independence? One, that after independence we shall run our country through democratic government, and two, the government will be run for the good of all, particularly poor and socially disadvantaged groups. Ab dekho, when India attained its independence, we had around 32 crores population, a population of 32 crores. So at that time, majority, we can say 50% or more than 50% of our population was below poverty line, was facing the ire of British brutalities and British exploitation. So the government, of course, the kind of system that prevailed before the independence, it was somewhat similar to the democratic. Of course, it wasn't democratic because the British were ruling us, but the governance, the basic idea of governance was majorly inspired by the democratic institution, or was majorly inspired by the democracy as an idea, as a idea. तो अब कोई भी अगर हमारे लीडर्स कोई भी दूसरा सिस्टम एडॉप्ट करना चाहते या किसी भी दूसरे सिस्टम को एडॉप्ट करने की सोचते, तो it would have created a havoc kind of situation. Why? Because we didn't have any idea about what the system, whether or not the system will address the demands of Indian nation, whether or not it will be able to accommodate the diversity of ideas from north to south or east to west, whether or not it will be able to project the proper vision, whether or not it will be able to make sure that India has a government that is comprehensive and that is accommodative, that listens to the basic demands of the people and make sure that the needs of the people gets addressed earliest. तो अब ये सब जो मेजर क्वेश्चंस हैं, ये सब बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाते हैं किसी भी कंट्री के लिए व्हेन दे चूज अ काइंड ऑफ व्हाट काइंड ऑफ पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम दे शुड अडॉप्ट. तो अब जो मेजर एक्सपीरियंस था इंडिया का वो ये था कि भाई अभी तक जो ब्रिटिशर्स ने जिस तरीके से हमको रूल किया, ऑफ कोर्स इट वाज अ रूल, इट वाज अ कॉलोनियल रूल, बट जो बेसिक आइडियाज जो ब्रिटिशर्स ने अडॉप्ट किए रिगार्डिंग द गवर्नेंस, हाउ गवर्नेंस शुड गो थ्रू, हाउ द लॉज शुड बी मेड, तो ये सब जो बेसिक आइडियाज हैं ये डेमोक्रेसी और डेमोक्रेटिक इंस्टीट्यूशन एज एन आइडिया से इंस्पायर्ड थे. So after independence, what is best is to make sure that we adopt a democracy in our country and elect and have a democratic institution where the democratic government gets chosen, and after that they run the country in a smooth manner. और second जो था, जैसा कि हम जानते हैं कि 32 करोड़ पॉपुलेशन थी, 32 करोड़ में से 50% या हम कहें 60% तक की जो पॉपुलेशन थी वो बिलो पॉवर्टी लाइन थी, और जो मिडिल क्लास में भी बहुत मार्जिनल लेवल पे थी, बहुत ही बेसिक, मतलब एकदम बेडरॉक जो होता है उस लेवल की पॉपुलेशन थी, जिनके पास सिर्फ खाने पीने के लिए ही कुछ हो जाता था, बेसिक नीड्स ही बहुत मुश्किल से उनकी सेटिस्फाई हो जाती थी. सो द बेसिक गोल ऑफ दिस डेमोक्रेसी एंड डेमोक्रेटिकली इलेक्टेड गवर्नमेंट जो होगा, once the constitution comes and once the constitution is drafted and once it is passed and adopted, तो जो बेसिक आइडिया और जो बेसिक वर्किंग ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन होगा वो बेसिकली एड्रेस करेगा टू मेक श्योर दैट this government addresses the needs of all and particularly the socially and economically backward and socially and poor economically backward population and poor population of our country. ठीक है, बट ऑफ कोर्स ये इतना इजी नहीं होने वाला था बिकॉज हम जानते हैं द काइंड ऑफ सिचुएशन इंडिया वाज बॉर्न इन. जैसे ही जब पार्टीशन हो रहा था, जब इंडिपेंडेंस, जब फॉर्मल ट्रांसफर ऑफ पावर का नोटिफिकेशन आ चुका था ब्रिटिशर्स की तरफ से, तब राइट्स ब्रेकआउट हो गए ईस्ट पाकिस्तान में, और वो दे स्टार्ट द राइट्स एंटायर राइट प्रॉन रीजन. It started spreading from parts of East Pakistan to Kolkata and then to parts of Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. और दूसरी तरफ इधर पंजाब जो डिवाइड हुआ इनटू ईस्ट पंजाब एंड वेस्ट पंजाब. तो अब जब पाकिस्तान में जो पंजाब था उस रीजन में भी राइट्स स्टार्ट हो गए और वो पूरे एंटायर पंजाब को उसने घेर लिया उस पूरे राइट्स ने. तो अब ऐसे में बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है कि द लीडर्स ऑफ द independent India, they shouldn't lose the hope, they shouldn't lose the sight of multiple challenges that face the new nation, and they work comprehensively to make sure that the policies that they have talked of in the pre-independent India, the policies that they had vision of implementing after once the India gets independent, they should implement it as soon as possible to ensure the peace, harmony and development of India, and to make sure that no one's rights gets curtailed and no one should face the brutality, or no one should become the victim of partition. Of course it wasn't easy, the kind of havoc that was created during that time, और जो कि जिस टाइप का प्रॉपर जिस टाइप का जो सोशल वेदर था उस टाइम पे, इट wasn't easy to make sure these policies getting implemented very soon, but they didn't lose the hope, and that was the key. But of course the traumatic displacement that took place, the trauma, it was kind of a trauma because abduction, rape, subjugation by one class of other, and forceful conversion, then brutalities by one religion where they were, if suppose the Muslims were in majority in one region, so they were trying to dominate Hindus. The Hindus were in the majority, they were trying to dominate the Muslims. So all this it was no different than a trauma that India was going through during that time, and it wasn't easy to implement, to move ahead with such things happening across the British India, and making sure that the policies and the government, or the transition that was taking place during that time from British India to New India in the form of government taking, or the Indian leaders taking the charge of India's administration, takes place in a smooth manner. ठीक है, चलो moving ahead. What were the three major challenges that India faced during that time? And these were majorly the social challenges, and addressing these challenges required a proper framing of the constitution. ठीक है, चलो. Broadly, independent India faced three kind of challenges. First and the immediate challenge was to shape the nation that was united yet accommodative of diversity in our society. India was a land of continental size and diversity. Its people spoke different languages and followed different cultures and religion. At the same time, it was widely believed that a country full of such kind of diversity could not remain together for long. The partition of the country appeared to prove everyone's worst fear. Very important. There were serious questions about the future of India. Would India survive as a unified country? Would it do so by emphasizing nation unity at the cost of every other objective? Would it mean rejecting all regional and subnational identities? And there was an urgent question: how was integration of territory of India to be achieved? पहले फर्स्ट चैलेंज को हम डिस्कस कर लेते हैं. ब्रॉडली इंडिपेंडेंट इंडिया फेस थ्री काइंड्स ऑफ चैलेंजेस. फर्स्ट, अब ये पूरा पैराग्राफ जो है फ्रॉम हियर टू अब ये जो पूरा पैराग्राफ है फ्रॉम फर्स्ट टिल worst fears, this is must you must highlight this portion. The first and the immediate challenge was to shape the nation. Okay, अब जैसा कि हमने डिस्कस किया, ड्यूरिंग द टाइम ऑफ इंडिपेंडेंस देयर वर 565 princely states. Now uniting these states into Indian Union was a mammoth task. After uniting these states, again the challenge that we discussed during that time in the initial phase of this chapter while reading the introduction was to draw the boundaries in such a way that they reflect the various identities in terms of language and in terms of different culture being followed in India. This was very important aspect, or this was very important challenge that was requiring an immediate addressing. So that is what it is said here. The first and the immediate challenge was to shape the nation that was united, of course united after making sure that 565 constituents princely states become the part of Indian Union, yet accommodative of diversity in our society. Diversity in terms of culture, in terms of language, in terms of religious practices, in terms of different kind of food habits. India was a land of continental size, of course. 3.28 million square kilometers is no more. It's the seventh largest country in the world in terms of land area. Its people spoke different languages, as I discussed, followed different cultures and religions. At the same time, it was widely believed that a country full of such diversity could not remain together for long. The partition again, yes. Considering all these challenges and considering all these features of Indian continent or Indian nation, in terms of different religions, languages, sects, cultures, and other various other social practices, the diversity that India reflects, the diversity that India has, the outside observers were of the opinion that India as a nation won't be able to sustain itself together for long. It will ultimately divide, and it will ultimately lead to creation of different nations, small nations. But and of course, the creation of East Pakistan and West Pakistan proved to be worst fear coming true. So again, it was the international observers and political thinkers were of the opinion that how would that there were certain questions that were raised during that time. The questions were there were serious questions about future of India. Would India survive unified country? Would it do so by emphasizing national unity at the cost of other objectives? That whether how will, if India remains united, whether India will try to impose certain kind of laws that make sure the unity and not focusing on the other aspects of the country's need, such as economic and other. Would it mean rejecting all the regional and subnational identities if unification, or if staying united means the other regional aspirations are subdued and they are suppressed? Or and there were urgent question, how was the integration of territory of India to be achieved? And of course, during that time there were few states such as the state of Nizam of Hyderabad, the Junagadh. Now these were few regions that were that didn't that there was there were negotiations going on during the time of independence. And of course these were the few regions that of course wanted, that had Indian population. The population wanted to be part of Indian Union, but the leaders were such that they were trying to make sure that somehow they come out of the grips of India and create an independent nation. So of course the major one of the various challenges was how was the integration of the territory of India to be achieved. Now the second challenge was to establish democracy. This is again the most important challenge. You have already studied the Indian Constitution. You know that the Constitution granted fundamental rights, extended the right to vote to every citizen. India adopted representative democracy based on parliamentary form of government. These features ensured that the political competition would take place in a democratic framework. Yes, must highlight this entire paragraph. A democratic constitution is necessary but not sufficient for establishing democracy. The challenge was to develop democratic practice in accordance with the constitution. So the second challenge was to establish democracy. Of course, the kind of administrative system, of course, we were under British rule, but the kind of internal administration, that the kind of laws and the kind of structure that British administration was following during the time of British rule, it was inspired by the democratic institution, democracy. So the second challenge was to make sure how smooth administration, how we install a smooth administration and smooth governance in our country. Democracy was the only way to make sure these ideas can be, the ideas of accommodation and ideas of representation can be achieved and can be implemented. So we have already read about what is democracy and what comes along with this democracy, what kind of package Indians enjoy along with this very concept of democracy. First is the constitution grants fundamental rights to each and every citizen and extends the right to vote to every citizen of our country who is above the age of 18 years. The India adopted representative democracy, like I said. The administration was the basic feature of British administration, and the most important feature was the idea of representation and idea of making sure that voices gets a chance to be heard. So idea of representative democracy based on parliamentary form of government was the idea that they were inspiring to install in Indian Union, independent India. These features ensure that the political competition would take place in a democratic framework. Of course, all these features, the whether the rights, right to vote, parliamentary form of government with the representative form of democracy, democracy as an idea, democracy as an idea to make sure that administration of the country runs in a smooth manner, governance of the country runs in a smooth manner. So all these ideas make sure that one of the most important challenge the challenge of addressing the social needs of the country gets addressed at the earliest, and the challenges of the challenge of addressing the social needs of the country uh, gets a proper attention through democratic governance in the country. Okay, a democratic constitution is necessary but not sufficient. Of course, merely having laws, treaties, policies on paper is not enough. You have to create that entire weather, you have to create the entire structure, you have to install the structure of proper governance, a proper practice you have to install. You have to make sure that everyone practice these on paper laws, on paper prescribed procedures, to make sure that the country is run in a democratic manner, and that is what it is said. The third challenge was to ensure the development and well-being of the entire society and not of some sections. Of course, this is very important. सिर्फ किसी एक सिर्फ किसी अंबानीज और टाटास का हमें डेवलपमेंट नहीं देखना है. वी हैव टू मेक श्योर दैट there is an overall development, there is overall social and economic development of entire nation. Everybody gets the opportunity to have education, everybody gets the opportunity for proper housing facilities, everybody gets the employment, everybody gets a chance to be part of the government services and many other things. Here again, the constitution clearly laid down the principle of equality and special protection to socially disadvantaged groups and religious and cultural communities. Highlight this: equal and special protection to socially disadvantaged groups and religious and cultural communities. The constitution also set out directive principles of state policy, the welfare goals that directive democratic politics must achieve. The real challenge was to evolve effective policies for economic development and eradication of poverty. Of course, as I said, the third challenge basically talks of the well-being of the nation. Now, how to ensure this well-being after having the entire democratic practice, after installing a democratic government, after granting rights to the people? How? So the constitution clearly talks of providing special reservation in the, proper protection to socially and economically disadvantaged groups, religious and cultural communities, through in the form of reservation policy. Of course, reservation policy in the present scenario is not that relevant, and it is being criticized on various grounds, but it was a major need during the time of independence, because India had previously faced the ire of subordination in forms of subordination and brutalities in form of caste domination, with upper caste people dominating the lower caste people, trying to curtail the opportunities and subduing them to make sure that they don't get the chance for their own personal development. So again, it was important to make sure equality and special protection. Another important aspect of the Indian Constitution is the directive principle of state policy. You can read it from the constitution. You must at least give one read to these directives from article 38 to 51. So what these directive policies basically talks of, these directive policies are the advice, kind of advice, or the kind of the goals that a democratic India must achieve. The democratic India, along with its governance, must make sure that these directives get a that these directives gets applied whenever and wherever the policies are being framed for the development of the people. To make sure कि भाई जो इकोनॉमिक डिस्पैरिटीज़ हैं, या तो कोई इंसान बहुत ही अमीर है या बहुत ही गरीब है, इन इकोनॉमिक डिस्पैरिटीज़ को रिड्यूस किया जाए और सभी को इक्वल अपॉर्चुनिटी मिले, सभी को इक्वल एक्सेस मिले बेसिक रिसोर्सेज और फैसिलिटीज़ का, एंड जो कि मेक श्योर करेगा कि जो इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट है कंट्री का और जो इरेडिकेशन ऑफ पॉवर्टी है, ये दो मेजर चैलेंजेस जो हैं इसको प्रॉपरली एड्रेस हो, या जो इसको प्रॉपरली एड्रेस किया जा सके थ्रू दिस डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स. ठीक है. How did the independent India respond to these challenges? To what extent did India succeeded in achieving the various objectives set out by the Constitution? The entire book is an attempt to respond to these questions. The book tells the story of politics in India since independence so as to equip you to develop your own answer to the big question like these. The first three chapters we look at how these three challenges mentioned above were faced in the early years of independence. In this chapter, we focus on the first challenge of nation building that occupied the center stage in the years immediately after independence. We begin by looking at the events that formed the context of independence. This can help us understand why the issue of national unity and security became a primary challenge at the time of independence. We shall then see how India chose to shape itself into a nation united by a shared history and a common destiny. The unity had to reflect the aspirations of people across the different regions and deal with the disparities that existed among the regions and different sections of the people. In the next two chapters, we shall turn to the challenges of establishing democracy and achieving economic development with equality and justice. ये वाला जो पूरा पोर्शन है, I advise you from how to in this chapter. आप एक बार read कर सकते हैं, but there is nothing important in these two paragraphs, so I won't be discussing. It is basically what we will be reading in this book, in the first three chapters of this book, and what particularly this chapter talks of, and how we should go through, what kind of idea we should have before we enter into the main content of this chapter. ठीक है, आप इसको एक बार read कर लीजिएगा, but there is nothing important in it. Okay, so yeah, displacement and rehabilitation. Okay, on 15th August 1947, not one but two nations came into existence, India and Pakistan. This was the result of partition. The division of British India into the division of British India into India and Pakistan, the drawing of the borders demarcating the territory of each country marked the culmination of political developments that you have read about in the history textbook. According to the two-nation theory advanced by Muslim League, India constituted of not one but two people, Hindus and Muslims. That is why it demanded Pakistan, a separate country for the Muslims. The Congress opposed this theory and demanded for Pakistan and the demand for the Pakistan, but several political developments in 1940s, the political competition between Congress and Muslim League and the British rule led to the decision of creation of Pakistan. This is very important paragraph. This will set the base for this chapter, I can say. Okay, on 14th-15th August, as we know, 1947, India attained its independence. Not one, the British India attained its independence. Not one, but two nations came into existence, India and Pakistan, which was the result of the partition. Now, how this entire process of partition started, or from where this idea of partition actually came? Again, सारे जिम्मेदार इन पार्टीशन का हम कह सकते हैं, बिल्कुल कह सकते हैं कि ब्रिटिशर्स और मुस्लिम लीग ही थे. Britishers try to manipulate Muhammad Ali Jinnah. Or what Muhammad Ali Jinnah did? Muhammad Ali Jinnah came up with the resolution of two nation theory. Now, what this entire two nation theory, जो कि आप यहाँ पे देख सकते हैं, what this entire two nation theory talked of. Indian two nation theory basically talked about that the British India has two types of population, two people. Who were those two people? Hindus and Muslims. And therefore, when British India gets independence, the separate nation should be made for the people or for the Muslims. अब क्यों, क्या, कैसे, ये सब आपकी हिस्ट्री टेक्स्ट बुक में जो 12th की है आपकी, इसमें डिस्कस किया गया है पूरा पार्टीशन का पूरा पोर्शन. But in the nutshell, what we can say, the political competition during 1940s, the elections during the pre-independence phase, and the competition between Congress and Muslim League, the riots, the various processes of trying to manipulate and trying to make sure that Muslims support the two nation theory by the Muslim League in the Pakistan side, in the West Pakistan and East Pakistan, and thereby thereafter, fueling the riots during the time of independence. These were the major reasons that contributed to India or the Indian leaders being forced to make sure that independent India gets divided into two parts. The Muslim dominated region becomes Pakistan, and the region where the Hindus are in majority becomes India. But what is important is to understand is India never said, or the Indian leaders never said that India is only for Hindus, जो कि आज की डेट में एक प्रोपेगेंडा और एक एक टाइप ऑफ वेव क्रिएट की गई है अगेंस्ट the basic feature of secularism. Of course, the word secularism was later added into Indian Constitution. I know that, but when the India was not having this word secular in its basic features of the Constitution, India never said that Indians will be India सिर्फ Hindus का है और Muslims को हमारा देश छोड़ के चला जाना चाहिए. Never ever you will find leaders giving speeches in the prominent leaders of independence who fought for this independence. They're telling or they're speaking that India, or they're speaking or giving addressing ceremonies or rallies where they are saying that India is only for Hindus and the Muslims are Pakistanis and Muslims must leave our country and make sure that India only remains of Hindus. ऐसा कभी कभी नहीं बोला गया था. It is the political agenda, it is the political wave that has been created in the present scenario, जिससे आपको बचना है. And for more details you must refer your history textbooks. Give it a read. Give it a read to entire partition chapter, so that to understand this entire weather of independence or the riots or the partition, entire scenario of partition in great detail. Okay. Now the process of partition. Thus it was decided that what was till now known as India would be divided into two countries, India and Pakistan. Such a division was not only very painful but was also very difficult to decide and to implement. It was decided to follow the principle of religious majorities. This basically means the areas where Muslims were in majority would make up the territory of Pakistan. The rest would stay with India. The idea might appear simple, but it presented all kinds of difficulties. First of all, there was no single belt of Muslim majority areas in British India. There were two areas of concentration, one in the west and one in the east. There was no way these paths could be joined. So it was decided that the new country Pakistan will comprise of two territories, East Pakistan and West Pakistan, separated by a long expanse of Indian territory. Secondly, not all Muslim majority areas wanted to be in Pakistan. Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, the undisputed leader of नॉर्थ वेस्ट फ्रंटियर प्रोविंस, जिसको जो कि पार्ट है अब पाकिस्तान का, was staunchly opposed the two nation theory, who was also known as the Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan was also known as the Frontier Gandhi. Eventually, his voice was simply ignored and NWFP was made to merge with Pakistan. ठीक है. So it was decided that what was till now known as India will become Pakistan and will get divided into Pakistan and India. Such a division was not only very painful, but it was very difficult to decide and implement. It was decided to follow the principle of religious majorities, which says that the areas where Muslims were in population would make up to the territory of Pakistan and the rest would stay with India. सिंपल है, बहुत ही सिंपल है. रिलीजियस मेजोरिटीज़ का फंडा क्या बोलता है? रिलीजियस मेजोरिटीज़ का फंडा कि भाई जिन इलाकों में मुस्लिम्स और जिस एक इलाके में मुस्लिम्स कंसंट्रेशन में है वो पूरा एरिया पाकिस्तान का पार्ट बनेगा, और जो बाकी बचे कुछ इलाके हैं वो सारे इंडिया का पार्ट बनेंगे. ठीक है. अब ये जो आइडिया था, दिस आइडिया it merely saying the areas that where Muslims are in concentration will become part of Pakistan and rest will stay with India. It appears very simple, पर इतना easy होता नहीं है, क्योंकि इंडिया का आप अगर डेमोग्राफी अगर आप पढ़ें, डेमोग्राफिक स्ट्रक्चर, if you read the demographic structure of India, you'll find there was no such area जहाँ पे सिर्फ मुस्लिम कंसंट्रेशन में हो, बाकी पूरे इलाके में हिंदूज कंसंट्रेशन में हो. देयर वर टू रीजन्स, ऑफ कोर्स देयर वर टू रीजन्स जहाँ पर ईस्ट और वेस्ट में ऐसे दो रीजन्स थे जहाँ पर मुस्लिम्स कंसंट्रेशन में थे. तो इट वाज इवेंचुअली डिसाइडेड दैट द न्यू कंट्री ऑफ पाकिस्तान विल कॉम्प्राइज ऑफ टू टेरिटरीज, द ईस्ट पाकिस्तान एंड वेस्ट पाकिस्तान. और बीच में जो ईस्ट पाकिस्तान और वेस्ट पाकिस्तान के बीच में जो ये लंबा सा डिस्टेंस होगा वो पूरा एरिया इंडिया का है, और वो पूरा इंडिया का पार्ट बनेगा. ये जो अब सेकंड जो मेजर चैलेंज था वो ये था, अब सेकंड जो मेजर फीचर है पार्टीशन का वो ये है कि सभी मुस्लिम्स नहीं जाना चाहते थे पाकिस्तान में. सभी मुस्लिम्स ये नहीं चाहते थे कि पाकिस्तान बने. और वन ऑफ द मोस्ट प्रोमिनेंट मुस्लिम लीडर जिसने इस टू नेशन थियरी को अपोज किया, ही वॉज खान अब्दुल गफर खान, ऑफ अ लीडर रिप्रेजेंटिंग नॉर्थ वेस्ट फ्रंटियर प्रोविंस, हु वाज आल्सो नोन एज फ्रंटियर गांधी. तो अब उन्होंने इस थियरी का अपोज किया, बट ऑफ कोर्स व्हेन यू आर फाइटिंग अगेंस्ट मैसिव फोर्स like represent which was having a leader like Muhammad Ali Jinnah, and party having membership and party winning the entire assembly elections of pre-independent India during 1946 assembly elections जो हुए थे उस टाइम पे. तो having such a majority and leader like Jinnah, अब अगर आप ऐसे एक लीडर को अपोज करोगे, so it's a mammoth exercise, it's a mammoth task. But of course, if you don't have the support, if you don't have the backing, then you really can't win against forces like these. Okay, so third problem was that the Muslim majority provinces, there were two major states of British India, West Bengal, the entire Bengal region, which today constitutes of two parts, the Bangladesh and the West Bengal, and the other one the Punjab. जो आज पंजाब हमारे पास है वो बहुत ही छोटा है कंपेयर टू द पंजाब दैट वाज इन एग्जिस्टेंस ड्यूरिंग द ब्रिटिश रूल. तो अब इन दो एरियाज में क्या था, द मेजर प्रॉब्लम वाज द हाफ ऑफ द रीजन वाज द रीजन वेयर द मुस्लिम्स वर इन मेजॉरिटी, द अदर हाफ वाज द region where the Hindus or the Sikhs were in majority. So it was decided to make sure that this region, based upon the religious majority, the areas, the majority, calculate the areas where the Muslims are in majority and bifurcate those regions based on this religious majority theory. But the major problem here was all these long drawn contemplations, they couldn't be implemented, or they couldn't be applied and given a full proof legality during the time of independence. So the the large chunk of population of Bengal and Punjab, they didn't have any idea of whether my region is part of Pakistan or whether my region is part of India. So it was difficult to make decisions during the time of, so these were one of those many factors that contributed to the large havoc or the traumatic situation that was created during the time of independence, that got created during the time of independence, because the people didn't know where they are right now, whether they are in Pakistan. Because if Hindus want to be part of India, then if they don't know that whether their village or whether their city is part of India or Pakistan, they can't migrate, and they can't, you know, move from that from they can't move towards the nation they want to live in. So all these factors contributed to the large traumatic situation that was created during the time of independence. Now, this was related to the fourth and the most intraceable of all the problems of partition. The problem of this was the problem of minorities. Now, this was the biggest problem which contributed to the grave crisis that India faced during the time of independence, and the repercussions of which are still felt if you try to meet those people who have seen that period, who have seen that traumatic phase of India's political bifurcation. And of course, the repercussions of this are still being used as a political agenda motivated towards ensuring vote bank politics and politics of majority versus minorities. Lakhs of Hindus and Sikhs in the areas, lakhs of Hindus and Sikhs in the areas that were now in Pakistan, and equally large number of Muslims on Indian side of Punjab and Bengal found themselves trapped. Of course, it was a kind of jail, virtual. It was a kind of mental jail that they were, caught in. They were to discover that they were undesirable aliens in their own homes, in the land where they were, and where in the land where they and their ancestors had lived for centuries. As soon as it became clear that the country was going to be partitioned, the minorities on both the sides of border became easy targets of attack. No one had quite anticipated the scale of this problem. No one had any plans for handling this. Initially, the people and political leaders kept hoping that this violence was temporary and would be controlled soon. But very soon, the violence went out of control. The minorities on both the sides of the border were left with no option except to leave their homes, often at the few hour notice. Okay, so as we know, this partition led to huge brutalities, domination, subjugation. Minorities were the main victim. Minorities were the majority of the population who faced the ire of this division. Because if, as I discussed earlier, if a village is now the part of Pakistan, and that village constitutes of Hindus, so the Hindus now became aliens in the land where they had lived, in the land where their ancestors lived, in the land where they had their properties. So they became aliens in their own land. They became aliens in their home village, and they were forced to migrate to the other side of the border if they want to the nations to which they want to be part of, the nation of which they want to be part of. So अब ऐसे में बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट हो जाता है कि क्या ये बहुत ही आसानी से हो गया, क्या जो जिसको मन किया मेरे को पाकिस्तान में रहना है तो मैं अपने गांव से निकल के पाकिस्तान में पहुंच गया, और मेरे हिंदूज को इंडिया में रहना है तो अपने गांव से निकल के इंडिया में आ गए? नहीं, ऐसा बिल्कुल भी नहीं था. So as soon as it became clear that the country was going to be partitioned, the minorities on both the sides became targets of attack. As we know, जो majority पाकिस्तान में कोई village है जहाँ पर हिंदूज majority में है, लेकिन उनके आसपास का पूरा इलाका मुस्लिम population वाला है. तो partition, of course, the fueling that done by the Muslim League during the time of partition, अब उससे क्या हुआ, जो हिंदूज थे वो इजी टारगेट्स बन गए क्योंकि वो उस रीजन में माइनॉरिटी में थे. दे बिकेम इजी टारगेट्स ऑफ अटैक. No one had quite anticipated of the kind of destruction that will take place of law in terms of loss of life, loss of civil property because of this rights. सब लोग ये एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे थे कि थोड़े दिनों में, थोड़े टाइम की बात है और फिर ये राइट्स बंद हो जाएंगे, बट ऐसा बिल्कुल भी नहीं था। ये राइट्स बद से बदतर होते चले गए, एंड विच इवन लेड टू नो people losing their life, along with the people losing their ancestral property after leaving their hometown. They became easy targets of attacks, and the official record says that millions of people lost their lives, and millions of people were forced to convert their official religion into the religion of the dominating religion in that area. So minorities were the easy targets of attack, and minorities were forced to leave their ancestral property and land at times, even at few hours of notice. Must highlight it. And no one had quite anticipated the scale of the problem. No one had plans of handling it, of course. Even the leaders during the time of independence were busy in making sure that transition of power and the transfer of power from British to India, from British India to independent India as a independent union takes place in a smooth manner, and to draft the constitution as soon as possible to address the social and political demands of the people. So they were of the opinion that it will eventually this violence, just because we have accepted the partition, now that we have accepted the two nation theory of Pakistan, this violence will, or these rights will stop. But that didn't happen, and the destruction that took place was really traumatic. Consequences of partition. Now, what were the consequences that India faced because of all this two nation theory, partition, religious domination, abduction, rapes, migration of people at few hours notice? What were the consequences? The year of 1947 was the year of the largest, most abrupt, unplanned and tragic transfer of population that human history has known. Very important, you should highlight this paragraph. There were killings and atrocities on both the sides of border. In the name of religion, people of one community ruthlessly killed and maimed people of other communities. Cities like people of other community. Again, you must highlight it. Cities like Lahore, Amritsar, and Kolkata became divided into communal zones. Muslims would avoid going into an area where Hindus or Sikhs lived. Similarly, Hindus and Sikhs stayed away from the Muslim predominance. Of course, the year of 1947 was the year of most abrupt, unprecedented, havoc, traumatic, जो भी आप सोच सकते हो, जितना खराब आप सोच सकते हो, उतना उतने खराब लेवल का डिस्ट्रक्शन हुआ है, उतने खराब लेवल का destruction, displacement, and trans movement of population and brutalities. ये सभी चीज़ें हुई हैं, जितने भी खराब लेवल का आप सोच सकते हो. The world had never witnessed such a transfer of population, such a movement, migration of population ever in the history. The world never witnessed. There were killings and atrocities on both the sides. जहाँ पे हिंदू मेजोरिटी में थे, they tried to make sure कि भाई हिंदूज प्रिवेल करें, हिंदूज जो रीजन में है, उस जहाँ पे हिंदूज मेजोरिटी में थे, उनने ये मेक श्योर करना चाहते थे कि भाई हिंदूज की डोमिनेशन हो, और मुस्लिम्स जिनकी वजह से ये इंडिया का पार्टीशन हो रहा है, इनकी लाइफ डिस्ट्रॉय कर दी जाए. और जहाँ पर हिंदूज माइनॉरिटी में थे, वहाँ पे मुस्लिम्स ये चाहते थे कि इन हिंदूज की वजह से ये सब राइट्स हो रहे हैं, क्योंकि दे वर अंडर द इन्फ्लुएंस ऑफ मुस्लिम लीग, दे वर अंडर द इन्फ्लुएंस ऑफ प्रोपेगेंडा प्रोजेक्टेड बाय मोहम्मद अली जिन्ना. तो उनने ये चाहा कि ये जो हिंदूज हैं, इनकी वजह से इतनी प्रॉब्लम्स आई पाकिस्तान के क्रिएशन में, और इनकी वजह से इनकी वजह से जो इंडियन पार्ट ऑफ इंडिया में जो मुस्लिम्स हैं, उनके साथ ब्रुटैलिटीज़ हो रही हैं, तो इधर हिंदूज़ के साथ हम डिस्ट्रक्शन करेंगे, हिंदूज़ की लाइफ डिस्ट्रॉय करेंगे, हिंदूज़ के साथ जितनी भी बदसलूकी हो सकती है वो करेंगे. तो इसका रिजल्ट क्या था? सिटीज़ लाइक लाहौर, अमृतसर एंड कोलकाता बिकेम कम्युनल जोन्स. अब कम्युनल जोन में कैसा हो गया कि भाई पूरा सिटी डिवाइड हो गया दो जोन्स में. हिंदूज जहाँ पर मेजोरिटी में, और जहाँ पे मुस्लिम मेजोरिटी में. जहाँ पे मुस्लिम मेजोरिटी में Hindus will try their level best not to stay away from the Muslim majority areas, और जहाँ पे हिंदूज मेजोरिटी में है, the Muslims will try to make sure that no Muslim enters into a Hindu majority areas. लेकिन इन सब के बीच में what is important is to understand the proper condition or the proper picture of how what the people who were forced to move from their homeland to the nation to which they in which they want to live, what they faced. तो अब वो उनके उन पर क्या बीती, what they went through. Forced to abandon their homes and move across borders, people went through immense suffering. Minorities on both the sides of the border fled their homes and often secured temporary shelter in refugee camps. They often found unhelpful local administration and police in what was till recently their own country. They traveled to the other side of the new borders by all sorts of means, often foot. Even during this journey, they were often attacked, killed, raped. Thousands of women were abducted on both the sides of the border. They were made to convert into the religion of the abductor and forced into marriage. In many cases, women were killed by their own family members to preserve the family honor. Many children were separated from their parents. Who those who did manage to cross the border found that they had no home. For lakhs of these refugees, the country's freedom meant life in refugee camps for months and sometimes for years. Paragraph exactly displays the brutalities or the kind of atmosphere that prevailed during the time of independence. People were forced to abandon their homes, their ancestral property, and move across the newly created borders. They were forced to leave their land. They were forced to live in refugee camps because they didn't have homes in the country in which they wanted, in the country in which they want to live. They were forced to move across the newly created borders through any sorts and means, either by foot or any other means of transportation available. They were attacked during their journey to the, जब लोग जा रहे थे, जब लोग माइग्रेट कर रहे थे अपने घर से, अपने खुद की प्रॉपर्टी वगैरह सब छोड़ के उस नेशन में जिस नेशन का वो पार्ट बनना चाहते हैं, सो ड्यूरिंग देयर जर्नी दे वर अटैक्ड. लाखों महिलाओं के साथ बहुत बदसलूकी की गई. दे वर रेप्ड, दे वर एबडक्टेड. मिलियंस ऑफ पीपल वर किल्ड बिकॉज ऑफ brutalities that was going on during these years of partition. In many cases, women were killed by their own family members to preserve the family honor. Children were separated by माँ बाप कई बार अपने बच्चों को छोड़ के चले गए अपने खुद को बचाने के लिए. दे वर सेपरेटेड फ्रॉम द फैमिलीज. दोज हु डिड मैनेज टू क्रॉस द बॉर्डर, अब उनके पास एक्सेस नहीं था होम्स का. दे डिडंट हैव एक्सेस टू प्रॉपर shelter facilities, so they were forced to live in refugee camps. Because they were refugee, their registration will take place, then only the government will provide them access to homes. So all these things, when these things happened, so people were actually forced to live in refugee camps for sometimes for months, and for some it was a matter of many years that they didn't got access to the proper housing facility. They didn't have access to food. But all these things, but the poets, writers, and filmmakers who have seen this period, who have read about this entire period of partition, they tried to show this period in the form of films, or they tried to express the pain that people went through in the form of poems, in the form of writing few paragraphs, articles, and various other media publication sources that were available during that time, and after this entire partition process ended. So the writers, poets, and filmmakers in India and Pakistan have expressed the ruthlessness and killings and the sufferings of the displacement and violence in their words. Short stories, poems, films. The writers, poets, and filmmakers in India and Pakistan have expressed the ruthlessness of the killings and sufferings of displacement and violence in their novels, short stories, poems, and films. While recounting the trauma of partition, they have often used the phrase that survivors themselves used to describe partition as division of hearts. Must highlight this paragraph and must make sure that you this paragraph is very important. The partition was not merely division of properties, liabilities, assets and political division, or a political division of the country and the administrative apparatus. What got divided were financial assets and things like tables, chairs, typewriters, paper clips, books, and also musical instruments of police band. The employees of government and railways were also divided. Above all, it was a violent separation of communities who had hitherto lived together as neighbors. It is estimated that the partition forced about 80 lakh people to migrate across the new borders. Between 5 to 10 lakh people were killed in partition related violence. We must highlight this entire paragraph to understand to understand what partition meant for India. It was not only the assets, now the writers, filmmakers, poets who have seen this period, who have read about this period, they have tried to express the pain, they have tried to express the pain, they have tried to express the brutalities, the destruction that took place through their novels, articles, poems, stories, and films. Now, one common word that they used, or the one common idea that they projected from all their writings, was that the partition was not only the political or division of land. Political, it was not political division or just merely division of land. It was division of hearts. And this word, and this phrase, division of heart, was not only used by them, it was used by everyone who has seen this period, who has lived through the times of partition. The partition was not only merely the division of assets, liabilities, political division, or division of administration. What got divided, from pins to cars, everything got divided. Paper clips, typewriters, tables, सब कुछ डिवाइड हुआ. गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉयज भी डिवाइड हो गए. जो गवर्नमेंट रेलवेज का पूरा सिस्टम डिवाइड हो गया. और मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंटली जो डिवाइड हुआ वो था जो लोगों के अंदर प्रॉपर एकोमोडेटिव और टुगेदर लिविंगनेस की जो एक फीलिंग थी, लिविंग टुगेदर इन हार्मनी, जो कि सदियों से इंडिया ने देखा था. हिंदूज एंड मुस्लिम्स शांति से एक दूसरे के साथ रहते थे. द हेट्रेड that that got installed, that got inculcated into the minds of Hindus and Muslims, that was the major setback, and that was the most depressing feature that India witnessed, that led to war, that led to riots, that led to people moving across the borders, preferring the country to the preferring country where they want to live. And this entire process led to massive loss of life. About 1 million people, half or 1 million people lost their life. 5 to 10 lakh people lost their life, and about 80 lakh people were forced to leave their land and to cross the border and live life in refugee camps till the time the government addresses their concern and provide them access to the basic social facilities. Now, beyond this administration, asset, and everything, and financial strains, however, the partition posed another deeper issue. The leaders of Indian national struggle did not believe in the two nation theory, and yet partition on the religious base had taken place. Did that make India a Hindu nation automatically? Even after large scale migration of Muslims to newly created Pakistan, the Muslim population in India accounted 12% of the total population in 1951. So, how would the government of India treat its Muslim citizens and the other religious minorities, Sikhs, Christians, Jains, Buddhists, Parsis, and Jewish? The partition had already created several conflicts. The partition had already created severe conflict between the two communities. Beyond the administrative and financial concerns, however, the partition posed another deeper issue. As we know, the Indian national leaders, as I said in the beginning of the chapter, Indian national leaders never believed in the idea of two nation theory. It was Jinnah and his camaraderie, the entire the lobby of Jinnah, that basically tried and eventually succeeded in dividing people on religious lines, in installing communal hatred in the minds of Indian masses and Indian masses, or we can say both in the minds of Hindus and Muslims. Yet the partition took place despite of Congress and the Indian leaders opposing this two nation theory. But even after large scale migration of Muslims into Pakistan, about 12% of India's population in 1951 constituted of Muslims. So the another important question was, how would India treat its Muslim citizens and along with the citizens such as Christians, Jewish, Parsis, and others? The partition had already led to conflict, and partition had already installed this communal kind of no communal hatred in the minds of people. So how would India proceed from every uh, bad thing that took place, or how would India proceed its affairs? How would India proceed with its normal affairs after this entire partition has taken place? After this entire partition took place, there was a competing political interest behind these conflicts. The Muslim League was formed to protect. Now the basic idea. Now the basic question is, why this entire thing? Why the Muslim League was forced, or why the Muslim League came up with the idea of two nation theory, or why Muslim League wanted Pakistan? There were competing political interests behind these conflicts. The Muslim League was formed to protect the interests of Muslims in colonial India. It was in the forefront of the demand for a separate Muslim nation. Similarly, there were organizations which were trying to organize Hindus in order to turn into a Hindu nation. But most leaders of national movement believed that India must treat all the religions. This is very important. You must underline this. India must treat all the religions equally, and that it should not be a country that gives superior status to adherents of one faith and inferior to those practicing another religion. All the citizens would be equal irrespective of the religious affiliations. Being religious or believer of or believer being religious or a believer would not be a test of citizenship. They cherished, therefore, the idea of secular nation. This idea was enshrined in the Indian Constitution. Of course, as I said in the beginning of this chapter, don't look at the present political scenario that is, trying to create a proper propaganda and trying to create a proper weather against one community, one religious community. As mentioned in this paragraph also, there were forces. Of course, when Muslim League was created, there was already a Hindu organization who was working to make sure that once India gets its independence, make sure that India is only a nation representing Hindus and Hindus' interest. And similarly, Muslim League was an organization, was a political organization that was trying to make sure that when in British India gets independence, Muslims gets a separate nation in the form of Pakistan. But the national leaders who were actually fighting in forefront for the people, for the independence, they never believed in all this nonsense. So they only believed that India is equal. Despite of creation of Pakistan, Indian leaders never wanted Pakistan to be created, because Pakistan was a demand completely against the secular notion and secular character of Indian state. But after the creation of Pakistan, of course, the communal hatred was a major idea that came into existence, and that got installed in the minds of Indian masses. But Indian leaders never believed in this two nation theory. So for that matter, what they did, they never accepted any religion as a superior, or they never wanted that the constitution should have any superior give constitution should give any kind of superior status to one religion and treating other religion as minority and as inferior. And that is one such value that they enshrined in the constitution making, to make sure that India stays a secular state, and the religious faith should not be the test, and the religious faith and religious affiliation should not be the test of India getting a citizenship in our country. So this is the end of the part 1 of the chapter 1 of your Indian politics in India since independence. So in the second part, I'll be discussing the later portion of this chapter, and the third part will be wrapping up this chapter. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to share it. If you have any doubts, if you have any suggestions, you can comment me, you can send me in the comments, and you can also mail me. You can find my email ID from the description box, and you can also follow me on Instagram if you want to ask me questions. So that's the end. Thank you very much, and bye bye.